All right, so I'm going to do the first half, and then I'm going to pass it over to my colleague, Callie, to add some final thoughts. But before I share my screen, I just want to discuss very briefly. We tried to make this as general as possible so that you could use what you have. Every dome is different with different versions of hardware and software. So I tried to keep it as general as possible. We do have at our site Chroma Cove lighting, and a side dome. So if anyone has any specific technical questions about how they can incorporate similar effects using those particular hardwares and softwares, please feel free to reach out to me. I'm always happy to discuss it. So I'm going to, and I apologize, I don't have a second monitor, so we're going to kind of fumble through trying to share this screen here in just a second. And I will share just a few slides and hopefully some video. I know sometimes Zoom is a little wonky with video, but I wanted to show some examples. So I'm going to present. Can everyone see that okay? Thumbs up, perfect. All right, so we're gonna get right into it. And there's a lot of ground to cover, so I wanna kind of be as efficient as possible. Again, please feel free to email me if you have any detailed questions for your location. But why lasers in the first place? Lasers are awesome, and I'm definitely a laser nerd, so I have a clear bias. However, the data for my site does not lie. It's very cost-effective programming for us. Our laser system and the content that we have for it, it doesn't cost nearly as much as our full dome content does. And it is definitely a lucrative revenue generator. We're up to about 20% of our revenue is laser shows, and only about 11% of the shows we offer are laser shows. So that's quite a significant amount. Sometimes our administrators question lasers because they're not necessarily so easily defined in our missions, but sometimes it's important to do programming that brings the public to help sustain our mission. So that's how we see lasers from an economic standpoint. It also diversifies content. There's people that come in for laser shows that wouldn't necessarily come in for planetarium shows. Sometimes what we get is, oh, I thought planetariums were more for kids, or, oh, I thought planetariums were just about space. But then they'll come in, they'll see, oh, we have all these different programs running, and they'll end up coming back. And most importantly, lasers are a lot of fun. So that is a big reason that we are so passionate about it. There's another reason to do live effects. You know, this is LIPS after all. We do a lot of live effects with our lasers, and there's a couple of reasons we do that. A big reason, first of all, if you're getting into lasers or you're doing lasers and you don't have a music license and you don't know what that is, or you don't know if you do, that's something that's very, very important that protects you from getting any phone calls from any music producers saying you're using our content inappropriately. Most planetariums use performance music licenses, and that means you need to be performing something. So if you're doing any kind of live effects and you can't recreate that content and distribute it in, like, say, a video, for example, that helps protect you. So if you do get that phone call, which is rare, to be fair, but if you do get that phone call, you can say, no, we are performing. These are all the effects that we do. You cannot replicate our content. It's very engaging to the audience to see the different effects. A lot of audience members don't expect a lot of live effects when they come. So it's very engaging for them. And a lot of our visitors, our laser visitors, will come back multiple times. They'll even come back to the same show multiple times because they know that every presenter is a little different and every show is going to be a little different. It also makes your site unique. So you can put a twist on the same laser show. You know, I have a lot of the same laser shows that many of my colleagues do, but because I do them in a different way, it makes our site unique. And again, it's a lot of fun. We have a lot of fun as performers and presenters doing laser shows because we can use a lot of live effects. Now, I'm going to talk about effects theory. And when I say effects theory, there's no, you know, set in stone kind of methodology. This is artistic. So I've come to these kind of parameters, these kind of principles to follow based on experience. I've been doing lasers now for 5 years. as well as input from a lot of mentors within the industry. So I am friends with a lot of laser professionals as well, and we talk back and forth about different creative ways to approach live effects and laser shows. So I've divided them into three major types of effects. Effects that complement the visuals of the laser show, effects that complement the beat or the music of the laser show, or effects that complement the narrative. So some songs have a clear narrative that they delve into, so you can bring in your visuals to complement that as well. And it's really important, I think, and it's something I had to learn over the years. It's very tempting to go all in 100%, but you want your effects to complement the laser show. So the laser show is kind of the lead singer, so to speak, and your effects are the backup singers or the bass player. So you don't want to overpower the lasers, and you also don't want to get too busy. So you can do too many things all at once, and that's not necessarily a good direction either. The other thing I want to emphasize, I'm not covering beam work here. Beams, secondary beams, are kind of a whole separate thing that you could have a whole separate session about. And I don't have as much experience with beams yet. So I'm not speaking to beams specifically, but that is another layer of effects that you can consider if you're getting into lasers. So we are going to focus on complementing visuals first. There's a lot of art theory that goes into this for me. So when I sit down with a brand new laser show, or if I'm trying to redo the effects in a laser show, I will watch it all the way through, and I'll start taking notes about things like the color of certain lasers. So I want to complement the colors, and you can do that either with complementary colors or similar shades of color or values of color, or I'm going to complement the structure of the laser visuals. You'll see some of that where I make the special effects kind of blend in with the lasers and enhance them. Or I'll give the lasers a nice backdrop. So I'm going to try, hopefully this will work like I think it will, to share some examples. On some of these where it's not terribly relevant, I've turned the music down some so you can hear it a little bit, but I'm wanting to kind of talk over it and explain some of the things, the decisions I'm making through the example. All right, so before we get into some of the video examples, if you're not familiar with complementary colors, this is a very simple view of it. It can get more complex than this. But basically, if you look at a color wheel, opposite colors will complement each other. So red and green, blue and orange. So that's one way to enhance the colors of your lasers that are going on. Or you can choose different values. So say the laser is this color, you might use cove lights that are in one of these values to enhance them. So it's a complementary color in the sense that it's the same shade or value depending on the terminology that you're more familiar with. So this is an example. This is from ABI's Pink Floyd show. Another thing here, can everybody hear me okay over the video? Another thing you want to try to do is fill your dome when possible. So the graphic here is a little bit on the smaller side. So I'm filling the dome with some complementary cove lights. And I like to do color transitions. So it's going to kind of shift up to red before fading away, which goes with the imagery that you're seeing in the lasers. Here we don't have anything at all. And some of the side dome effects are not going to show up as well as I would like because it's hard to video in a dome. But I'm hoping you'll see a little bit of it. I'm going to talk about it verbally. So in just a second, we're going to come up, the solar system is going to appear in this particular song. And I'm going to give it a backdrop of the Milky Way galaxy. So it's like we're a solar system in the galaxy. You see a little bit of the Milky Way to the right of the screen. It's very dim. I do apologize again for this. And we're coming in to the solar system. We're going to come up on Earth in just a minute. And you'll see how I transition the background imagery as we're getting closer to Earth. And I'm going to fade in with a complementary color. In this case, I think I did green. We're like landing on Earth. And then we're going to fade into a different background. So we're fading into a scene where we're in a grassy field on Earth. There's a pretty moon in the background. And then we'll fade out because it's near the end of that particular scene. Oops, I didn't mean to rewind it. Let me hop forward. That little. There we go. I had to pause it. So this next one, this is from AVI's Elton John show. I love this graphic. But you can see I've put some rainbow auroras at the base of this graphic. So this is an example of where I'm using the effect to kind of blend the graphic itself, and it's part of the imagery because this is a band and it has this kind of aurora effect at both ends. Rainbow aurora. Pause it. Now the next one, oops, I skipped ahead. The next one, we're going to talk about complementing beats. Now, there's a couple of ways that we do this. One, you can execute your beats manually, which we do that a lot. It's a lot of fun. Or you can have an automated cue that does it in the right tempo. So you'll see a couple of those examples in the next clip, which is from LFI's Queen show. Another one bites the dust. Very beat-heavy song, so there's a lot of beats. So these are manual drums that we're doing. If you listen really closely, you might even hear my clicks because I'm clicking the mouse on the cues.
Yeah, can you bump up the music soundtrack a little bit?
Let's see. I think that might be as loud as I can go. This one I got cranked up to 100.
Okay. Yeah, I'm not able to hear it.
And I'm even going with the beat with my color shift. So you see I'm going up and then down in a beat. And this is an example of an automated cue that's to the right tempo. And let's see, I'm going to fast forward just a little bit. If you're familiar with Another One Bites the Dust, I know it's hard to hear. I do apologize because the volume, I do have it cranked up. But there's a spot where they clap. So in that spot, we have the claps, and that's manual. And that can get the audience participating. Some do, some don't. But, you know, we encourage singing along and participating. So this can guide them in clapping, which can be a lot of fun. It just depends on the audience if they take that invitation. And then this one, I want to pause this for just a second. This is not my site, but if you have an optical mechanical system, this is something that you can do. And Will Snyder gave me permission to discuss this because this is his site that he does this. But he uses the star ball. He changes the settings in a way that I'm not familiar with, unfortunately, but he can manually control the movement of the star ball to the tempo of the music. So I'm going to fast forward slightly here in the interest of time so you can see the stars moving a little bit. And these are beams that I unfortunately don't have yet, but it's on my wish list. So you can see a little bit his stars are moving. And he'll go faster or slower depending on the tempo of the song. And then the last one that we do is we'll complement the narrative of the song. There's a fairly long clip in one of these, and I do apologize if you can't hear it very good, but let's. It's okay. What I was saying, I'll repeat that briefly. This is from LFI's Queen. It's Princes of the Universe, which is from the show Highlander, or movie Highlander. So I used a castle, and it is very faint back there, I know. So kind of just use your imagination for this one. But there's a castle scene behind this to play on the themes of the program in which that song originates from. You can also see some of the automated lights to the tempo of the music there as well. The next one, so what I'll do is I'll introduce it before I play it, since the sound will be loud. The next one is from AVI's Elton John. It's Philadelphia Freedom. So I include an image, a silhouetted image of Philadelphia with the Philadelphia sky above. And I also make color choices that have a positive message about the LGBTQ community as well, being that it is Elton John's show. So I will go to the next one next. So that one is very simple. That is a particularly simple effect, but a lot of our audience really are wowed by it. It's just, I made an image. I graphically designed this skyline, and I paired it with the sky over Philadelphia and complemented with the colors of my lights for this effect. Now, the next one is a little bit longer. This is Rocket Man from the same Elton John show, and I use no lights for this. I only use visuals for my projector, and it kind of tells a story of this astronaut going through space. And I might fast forward a little bit here and there for the interest of time. I'm just going to fast forward a little bit until we get to more of the visuals. So we kind of come to the moon first. We go past the moon here. Again, I'm speeding up a little bit for the interest of time. And then we start on to Mars. And I actually also complement the visuals of the laser when we go to Mars. So I'm going to fast forward to that section. And then I come past that. And I actually, it looks like in the next one, it looks like the lasers are coming out of a nebula. And then eventually we come to a moon of Jupiter. And then it's all right. So the next part of it, I've shown you the more technical side, but I want to pass it over to my associate, Callie. Again, I've been working with these for 5 years and I love them so much, but she's relatively new to it. I just want her to speak to how it's impacted her as a performer and what she notices in her audiences as well. So I'm going to stop sharing for her to share her experiences.
Hi, everyone. For anybody who knows me like personally as well, I have a very extensive background, more so in performing than I feel like almost anything else. My other job, I also perform like on stilts as characters, and I've been in shows and performances. So it's a very important thing to connect and reach out to your audiences. And Nina earlier was explaining about that universal awe. So I feel like having these extra effects and things definitely add that wow factor that really engages people. And it may lead to more of a bridge to connect to some of the educational side as well. I remember after a Dark Side of the Moon show, having a conversation with one of the patrons about how there actually isn't a dark side of the moon, and that's part of the lyrics in the ending song. So sometimes you may have people that engage more in that way than in the scientific way. I also think it's very important now in this time that we've had of just everything being really challenging all around, to just have something where you can more relax and digest it a little bit more visually than conceptually at times. So I think everything else just hit the nail on the head. Did we mention that lasers are fun? So I guess if anybody has any other questions in particular about working with that kind of concept. I will say getting into it, it was a little overwhelming at first, a little bit of parallel processing, having to figure out, all right, my lighting effects are coming in. I've got to get the projector visuals while also paying attention to the lasers. So it's very good brain exercise as well, I feel like.
Any questions? We've got just a couple of minutes before we move on to the next thing.
I had a quick question. Will that, can I get a copy of that PowerPoint? Because I definitely have some presenters I would love to have watch that. I loved it. You guys did a great job.
Thank you. Absolutely. I will just, I'll put my email here too, so that you can reach out to me directly. I'll be happy to send the copy of that to you, and I could chat forever about what we do with lasers. Block off 30 or 45 minutes. I'm just kidding.
someone asked if we've incorporated lasers into regular shows, and the one that comes to mind is we have one that goes through some of the Star Stories. So we do have a Star Story show that features a really cute character animation type stuff, but nothing scientific. That would be interesting to get into, some scientific diagrams and lasers.
Yeah, that's Legends of the Night Sky, which is an AVI production. We sometimes do that, and then we'll do a star show live where we'll show them the constellations based on the story that they saw. Do I have everything synchronized to start with one click? No, and that's one of the both the cool things about it is we actually are actively performing, but also it helps again reinforce the type of music license we have that is a performance license, which is a little bit more economic than a synchronization license to do that. Now we do push play on the laser shows themselves, although again, if you got into beams, you could do some live beam work. We're not there yet as a site. It's kind of a bucket list thing that I'd like to get to, but that part is live. But the cove lights, the projector, we execute those in real time. It would also be very labor intensive to code. We run ATM4, which is the CIDOM system. So we would have to time everything out and code it. We also would have to start all the different hardware and software at the same exact time. So it's more efficient to just execute it live. I'll make sure I put some notes on the slides too before I share them, so that you guys will know kind of what it's referencing. Thanks, everyone.
All right. I do have one quick question for Callie. Since you're a relatively new presenter, how did you start learning to do the laser shows?
I observed Kat run a couple for me, and then I kind of sat on the back end with her and watched what she was doing. And then it just kind of comes down to practice. And of course, the more familiar you get with everything, the easier it starts to flow. It's kind of a skill building. Takes a little bit of time.
Yeah,
yeah, practice, of course. Practice.
Yep. Cool.
I have to say this is coming at like the perfect time because we onboarded some staff during the pandemic right after we reopened, and things were very chaotic, and we were kind of, learn all of this as quickly as possible. We just need you out on the floor. So now that there's time to like go back and look at polishing things like laser shows, which, as you said, aren't usually seen as something like mission oriented, but they're still, it's worth putting work into, and it's worth making it look nice. So this is the perfect tool to kind of show new staff like how you can make a quality show like that. So this is awesome.
And Carissa, if you have the ability, one thing that I did a long time ago that helped a lot when bringing in new presenters, volunteer and staff, is I have a default panel to start with that has very basic cues in it, slides, drum beats, atmospherics. Once they get familiar with that panel in shows, then they can branch out and start creating their own individualized effects. Now, I create unique effects for almost every show, every song. I have a choreograph menu that I use. That's a lot in the beginning. So I start everyone off on kind of a foundation. Once they start to learn the theories behind it, then they can move up to making their own dance moves, so to speak.
Yeah, that's a great idea. That's something we have I've not set time aside to do something like that. So I think that's something I'm certainly going to develop soon.
I've got an interest in animation and art drawing as a hobby. So I am going to start dipping my toes into getting the lasers animated, hopefully looking into some Beyond software and things like that. So it's a little intimidating at first, but just been making the rounds on YouTube University about that.
I kind of went back through some questions and got one more to answer a couple of questions. We use cove lights and our star projector to do our effects. We also use fog, but I didn't use fog because I wanted to try to maintain the video as much as possible. So we use our coves and our star projector. particularly, as I said in the beginning, we have a Sidome star system and we have Chroma Cove fully programmable lights. It doesn't necessarily mean you can't use another type of light or another type of system. My colleague Liz in South Carolina State Museum, she's a Digistar. She does star projector effects. How many hours of training from brand new to solo performance was another question. That really varies by person. You know, Callie was a performer already, so she picked it up really quickly comparatively, but some of my volunteers, it takes them a little bit more time, and also a lot of encouragement. For quite a few people, it's very unfamiliar territory. So just encouraging them. And I always try very hard to sit into my new presenters' first show. So unless they don't want me to, but I will come and I will actually come to their show as an audience member, and I will support them. And I'll watch them do a whole show and give them feedback, both good and bad. And I'll give them, you know, notes from my experience about how I think they could, you know, help themselves a little bit in the process. I think in one show Callie did, I said, your effects are awesome, but you're exerting a lot of energy. And in the summer, we're going to have 3 shows a day. So give yourself a break somewhere in between, was one of my, you know, notes for her. So I always sit with them and support them in that process.
I see the open submission post there from Krista. So I'd be interested on some info on that. I'll shoot you my email address.